to take whatever cuddly cutie is near you, and if there are several, go ahead and pick up a few of them. And let's bring this little creature with us into our meditation this morning. So get yourself comfortable, whatever that is for you, and feel this stuffed with love critter. And know that the next stop for this item you're holding will be in some child's arms. Some child who may be experiencing fear and loss, sadness, and needs something they know they can hold on to. And fill this stuffed creature with your love and your joy and your comfort and your peace, knowing that you're passing this on. So let's take a moment or two of silence just to be in that place of joy, peace, and comfort. So as we return to this place in time, we give thanks for our knowing that we can be at peace any moment we choose to be at peace. And we can bring that into any situation we choose to. We give thanks for our own divine nature, and we give thanks for everyone around us. And with that we say, amen.
Amen.
Okay. So I got a call from Reverend Susan, I think it was Tuesday, and Zoya does homeschool online at home. So she and I were both working on our computers in the area near the wood stove. And I said, well, I guess I'm giving the talk Sunday. What should it be about? And Zoya said, fear. And I went, okay, let's have that talk be about fear, or the opposite of fear. And I remembered that Mary comes into this story, doesn't she? Because the angel said to Mary, don't be afraid. Okay, last time I'm picking this up. There we go, I'll put it a little farther in on the table. So, we can always take this message, can't we? Don't be afraid. Because even if we're not afraid of anything else right now, we might be afraid of the traffic. Right? If you go out, if you're in the valley, if you're doing any shopping, and if you're in that traffic, there might be a little fear welling up in your stomach as everyone is shoving around next to you and trying to bump in front of you, and you're waiting to make some kind of turn. So while we know we have the choice to not be afraid, don't we sometimes feel like that? Right? Even though we know we have a choice to not be afraid. This is a nice little role model. Most of us have some kind of pet in our home, and I loved this little mouse saying, I'm not afraid of you. And the cat's also kind of saying, you're a very curious little creature, but let's just do a standoff here. So we have all kinds of places and ways we can look around us and look at don't be afraid. But let's take a moment to think about Mary. So this is the story from Luke, and I'm going to read just part of it and paraphrase some of it. So here was Mary, and the angel Gabriel came to her and said, "Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you." Okay, when we hear voices, no matter how friendly that voice might sound, it could strike a little bit of fear in your heart. And she was much perplexed by the angel's words and pondered what sort of greeting that might be. The angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God." And the angel goes on to tell her that she will bear a child, and that child will be king and lord and a magnificent one. Okay? So put yourself in that place with Mary right now, hearing a voice telling her she's going to have a baby, and her baby is going to be Lord, Christ, God, Savior. She was perplexed. I think at the very least she was perplexed. Yet what did Mary do after she got this news? Did she sit in trepidation? She ran to tell her cousin Elizabeth, right? She ran to tell her cousin, "I have good news. This is my good news." So Mary made a really quick recovery from undoubtedly thinking, what is going on? Why is this presence coming to me and telling me these things? My life is going to be changed. It's going to be turned upside down. I wasn't ready to have a baby yet, and here I'm going to have one. Oh my goodness. But she took it in her, and she took it as joy. She immediately transformed it from fear to joy. So let's look at Charles Fillmore for a minute, because he has a very interesting definition of fear. Charles Fillmore, one of our co-founders. He says it is a paralyzer of mental action. It weakens both mind and body. Fear throws dust in our eyes and hides the mighty spiritual forces that are always with us. That is loaded. I often use phrases from Charles, and they're always loaded. So let's take it apart a little bit. A paralyzer of mental action. Think about it for a minute. When you're in fear, can you make good decisions? Can you do the research you need to do to figure out what to do? You hardly can put one foot in front of the other, right? You just sit there and are thinking, I am really afraid. So a paralyzer of both mind and body, where to go, what to do. Weakens both mind and body. Fear throws dust in our eyes. Charles has a tendency to give us these images that we can take with us. Fear throws dust in our eyes. You've had dust in your eye? Mm-hmm. Not only can you not see, what? It hurts. It hurts. So he's telling us fear is a painful thing. It brings us to a painful place. And hides the mighty spiritual forces that are always with us. So we come back to that. We have a choice to not be in fear. But when we are so overwhelmed with fear, it's hard to remember that we have a choice. Because it hides the mighty spiritual forces that we know are in us. So we need to loosen that fear somehow, right? We need to loosen it and let it go away in order to see and to become unparalyzed in mind and body. The Bible tells us over and over and over again, fear not, do not be afraid. One of the things I read this week said, it says that there are 365 do not fear messages in the Bible. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a nice number because it gives us one for every day of the year. Okay? That there is a do not fear message for every day of the year. That would be a nice thing to remember, wouldn't it? So I've got just a few for you this morning. This is from Isaiah. I said, "You are my servant. I have chosen you and have not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. And all of these phrases we pull from the Bible. We can take our unity consciousness of that spirit, that divine nature that is our very own to claim. From 1 Peter, do not fear what they fear. Okay, people all around you might be engulfed in some kind of fear. You don't have to be there. Do not fear what they fear, and do not be intimidated, but in your hearts sanctify Christ as Lord. And we had the daily word this morning that reminded us that our interpretation of Christ is your own divine nature. From Psalms, I sought the Lord, and the Lord answered me and delivered me from all my fears. A little over a year ago, Reverend Sandy Kale was here for our Easter service, and she reminded us that we can interpret the Lord as the Lord of our being, the Lord of our own divinity. I sought my divine nature, and my divine nature answered me and said, it's here, I'm always here, thank you for calling, and delivered me from my fears. And from 2 Timothy, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind. So we can make the choice any time to remember. Any of these might be a good one to put up on the mirror, right? To remind us, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And some of our more popular literary writers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the wise man in the storm praised God not for safety from danger, but for deliverance from fear. Which brings us right back to Charles Fillmore. If we can release the fear, we are no longer paralyzed in mind and body. But let's come back again. So Charles Fillmore says this is fear, a paralyzer of mental action, weakens mind and body, throws dust in our eyes, and hides the mighty spiritual forces that we know are always with us. There's another thing that we can do with fear. I've been introduced recently to the book, The Eye of the Storm. And one of my last classes when I was in Unity Village was The Eye of the Storm with the author, Gary Simmons. And so I had a chance to pull out some of the key ideas here. And Gary Simmons has introduced me to another purpose of fear in our lives. Gary suggests we'll always have challenges, right? And some of those challenges might bring fear. Oh no, I don't want to face this, I don't want to do this, I don't know where to go with this. Gary says, your soul moves you toward challenges because they stretch you. So if you're feeling some fear, you might remember this. Maybe I'm being pulled toward something to stretch me. Maybe that's what's going on here. And that's why I'm feeling some fear. And I'm going to use Gary's sentence to introduce the next thought behind this. He says, your soul moves you toward challenges because they stretch you in ways that separate you from your falsehoods and dependencies. Separate you from your falsehoods and dependencies. Gary talks about, we can predict our life if we go on the same trajectory for our whole life, right? We can predict everything about our life if we make the same choices in the same situations again and again and again. He says, this is what challenge is about, and this is what fear can be about. To jolt us out of our typical response and say, you know what? I can do this differently this time. I can make a different choice with this. And sometimes, in order to make a different choice, we need to stop, right? We need to stop, because our automatic reaction is just to go right on doing whatever we did before. And to me, that's one of the things fear can do for us. Because it paralyzes us in mind and body, it stops us. Stop, wait a minute, do nothing, feel the fear. I have to smile when Zoe's wearing an animal on her head. You think that little thing is afraid it might fall off your head?
Nope.
No.
No fear.
So fear can stop us in our tracks. I don't know what to do, I'm afraid. And that is the opportunity we have to stop and rethink and reposition and re-choose and take a different path. The opportunities to stretch us out of what we would have done in our normal pattern of doing things. Even though sometimes we might find ourselves feeling like this. I'm so stretched. I'm not sure I can stretch anymore. But we can always stretch if we remember we have that capacity. We have our divine knowing, we have our divine nature, we have our divine knowledge, we have our divine wisdom. And we can stretch ourselves in and around and through anything if we remember that. So while challenges lay ahead, if we can start to think of these as opportunities to stretch, this won't be quite so frightening. Right? More challenges ahead. There's always going to be more challenges ahead. Our life is made up of things like that, and they are opportunities to grow and stretch and learn. Gary Simmons also tells us the future can only be regarded as probabilities floating upon an infinite sea of possibilities. And this is if we remember to stop and consider, what did I do yesterday when faced with this situation? Did it work? Maybe not. If it didn't work, do I want to make that same choice again? No, stop. Let yourself be paralyzed for a moment in mind and body and spirit. And reconsider and know that life is probabilities floating on an infinite sea of possibilities. There is no end of the choices that you can make to respond to any situation. So, you are the point of power. So we have a little different image here. Cat and mouse are like this, right? In the first image. Now we've got cat and mouse. What do they look like they're feeling or experiencing right there?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Whimsy. I wonder what this is about. So there's a choice. There's a real clear choice. Do we want to face our fear and our challenges by going, or look at it and say, what is the possibility here? What is really going on? What is my opportunity to handle this in a different way? You are the point of power. This cat and mouse, the earlier picture, they kind of, to me it was like, they knew they were the point of power, but they also saw some power in the other, right? The mouse was going, I know you're powerful, I'm going to stand you off. Okay? We too often give our power away, right? We put the power in something else that is making me feel this way, that is causing fear in me. Who gives it fear? We do, right? We do. We're the ones who interpret it as something that can threaten us. Mary and the angel. The angel said, don't be afraid. And Mary got in right behind and was like, that's right. I can choose here. I don't need to be afraid. I can choose. I can choose to release the fear, and I can choose to make a choice that works for me. And the choice that works for me is to go and tell my cousin. So, you're the point of power, you give it meaning, and you get to choose. What will it be? Fear or possibility? Thank you.